Nintendo recently dropped a new Captain Toad Treasure Tracker trailer onto the world, as well as a ton of new screenshots too, and they showed off a lot of new things. Some things are obvious, and the others are a little bit more hidden. So you know what that means. It's time to rev up the old analysis machine and see what secret treasures it can track down. But of course, please make sure to watch our previous E3 analysis if you haven't already, as we'll only be covering the new stuff here. Alright, let's get started. So perhaps the biggest revelation is that Captain Toad won't be searching for treasure alone. Well, not at first at least, as Toadette appears in the game as well. Now according to the trailer, the story is that Toad and Toadette were out searching for treasure one day, when suddenly a giant bird called Wingo appears and snatches their Power Star treasure away. And not just that, but Toadette too, she's holding on to it for dear life. So obviously, this takes place pretty early in the game. In fact, extremely early, because according to Nintendo's press release, that Power Star is actually the first and only one that they found up to that point. Which means we're probably looking at the game's very first level. And we know it's an actual level because the official Japanese website shows this level actually being played, complete with camera control. Although we do use the term level loosely, as there's clearly not much to do here. At best, it seems like it might be a tutorial level helping you get used to the camera controls, with Toadette guiding Toad through and showing him the ropes. And we can tell she's being controlled by the computer and will stop at predetermined points and wave at Toad while she waits for him to catch up. Okay, so after the kidnapping, it's of course up to Captain Toad to get Toadette and that Power Star back. And in fact, we can see him do just that in the trailer, where he's battling Wingo atop what appears to be the bird's keep, where he stashes his stolen treasure away. And if you look close, you can see Toadette is still clinging to the Power Star around his neck. Poor girl. Now Nintendo's press release clarifies that once you beat him in this fight, you'll unlock Toadette as a playable character, which is probably why they're both so happy in the trailer's final scene, which appears to take place just after the battle since they're both standing on top of the same pile of gold coins. And look, they even got their Power Star back too. But it seems that Wingo's not done yet, because the press release implies that they'll have to travel together through the remainder of the game's 70 worlds to finish him off for good. Which makes sense given that in the opening cutscene, Wingo has not just one Power Star, but two. The one around his neck, and the one that he steals from the Toads. So since it looks like you only get a single Power Star for defeating him, we're guessing you'll only be awarded a second one in the final confrontation at the end of the game. Now there are a few interesting details about Wingo himself to point out. For one, does that feather in his cap look familiar to you? It might, because it looks just like the feather that allowed Mario to fly in Super Mario World. But what's a bird needed for? He can already fly. Well, that might be because the way Wingo's wearing it is actually reminiscent of another power-up, the Fire Flower from Super Mario Land 2. In that game, Mario would wear that same feather in his cap in the exact same way. And just as it lent Mario magic powers there, it might be the key to Wingo's magic powers here. And we're pretty sure he has some kind of magic, because after he gets hit by Toad's turnip, we can see all kinds of shapes flying out of him, like squares, circles, and triangles. Which are, of course, the same shapes that appear whenever the magic-wielding Magic Koopa launches an attack. Now, although we don't actually see Wingo attack in this scene, it appears as if he may be preparing to, as the jewel on his turban turns pink and appears to be charging just before he gets hit. But since it returns to green immediately after, it looks like Toad's attack interrupted the bird's magical charge. Now the only thing we wonder is if some of his magic attacks might be fire-based, because of the fact that Mario also used fire when he wore the feather in his cap too. Now besides this battle, it seems you'll actually have another encounter with Wingo before rescuing Toadette, since a screenshot released by Nintendo of Europe shows Captain Toad encountering him on what appears to be an old castle. And look, there's Toadette hanging around his neck again, which confirms this takes place before that battle. But as it turns out, the same level is shown briefly in the trailer when Captain Toad has to fight against a wind gust. But wait a second, what's that? Is that a feather? Yep, it's the exact same type of feather seen in the Wingo screenshot, meaning he's likely using his wings to create a windstorm Captain Toad has to fight against, which we can actually see in action thanks to a recent screenshot from Nintendo UK's Facebook page. And since Toad's carrying a turnip here, we're guessing you may have to use him against Wingo in order to counter his wind attack. And by the way, do you see that blue switch behind Toad? Well, we can actually also see it in this screenshot here, showing that the windstorm happens on this walkway after the initial encounter. And since we can see there's another plant even higher up, it seems throwing turnips at him may be an ongoing thing throughout the level. Oh, and while we're here, we can see one of the 3 collectible gems in the level too. So we can't help but wonder if this level is actually what leads to the encounter with Wingo on top of the tower. Yeah, the background may be dark and cloudy here, but the tower itself is above the clouds, so of course it would be clear skies. And the tower's architecture seems to be identical in theme to the castle as well, sharing the same brick pattern and color, which likely means this entire castle is his home. Okay, that's plenty enough about Wingo, so let's talk a little bit more about Toadette, since not a lot has been revealed about how she'll work. I mean, is she really just an alternate character they can choose to use on any mission after you rescue her? Or could she have her own set of levels or challenges to explore? Well, even though we get multiple looks at the same levels in both the trailer and screenshots, in every scene from the same level, we only ever see either Captain Toad or Toadette, but never both. So for example, take the level Shoot, Scoot, Slopes, which is shown in the trailer, screenshots, and even in a clip from the official Japanese website, as they all have one thing in common. They all have Toadette in them, with Captain Toad nowhere to be found. And this applies to every level we've seen, featuring either just one or the other. This suggests that both Captain Toad and Toadette may have their own set of missions to explore, unless it's all just a huge coincidence. Now we should mention that some of the levels that we see Toadette in have been shown in the past using Captain Toad instead, but that was before Toadette was announced as a character, so that could have just been for demonstrational purposes, and the missions may now be character specific. Okay, now so far every level we've seen only ever shows one of the Toads in action at a time, unless it's for a story-based reason like in the opening level or during the Wingo boss fight. But is there a chance some missions may require you to switch off control between the two of them? Well, probably not, at least if the headlamp is anything to go by. Because, as you've probably noticed, Captain Toad and Toadette can almost always be seen wearing a headlamp, except whenever they appear on screen together, like in the opening cutscene. This suggests that they only have the one headlamp to share between the two of them. And since a headlamp appears to be used to show which Toad you're in control of, as we saw in the opening level, we think this could rule out the possibility of being able to switch between characters mid-mission. Although, the fact that they went this far to make that distinction might suggest that there will be even more levels where the other Toad will appear in some capacity. Again, like during the Wingo boss fight. But then again, despite Toadette not having her own headlamp, she does have her own backpack, so maybe she'll just pull one out of there whenever she needs it, if there is indeed some kind of character switching mechanic. In fact, thanks to a clip from the official Japanese website, we can see that she will indeed put a headlamp on at the very start of the mission. Now Toadette won't be the only familiar character to appear, as we can see some of the members of the Toad Brigade will appear here as well, including Blue Toad, Yellow Toad, and Green Toad, although the Pink Toad appears to be nowhere in sight. But their role appears to be pretty limited, as in this scene, we can see they only give up one of the level's 3 gems. And this is the only level we see all 3 of them in too, though we'd be very surprised if they don't all reappear throughout the game, as it did in Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Now in this case specifically, we can see the challenge comes from just trying to get to them, because in this scene we can see they're on an otherwise unreachable ledge. Yet in the clip where they award Toad the gem, the platform that they were on is now flush with a wooden walkway, and based on the fact that the portion of ground with the sign here can't be seen, it seems that Toad somehow raised the walkway portion to be on the same level as the Brigade. Finally, you just gotta love the little touches they put into the Brigade themselves, such as how Yellow Toad is still sleeping on the job, and the green one appears to be consulting a map. It's a nice little touch. Now, besides the gem that Blue Toad gives to you, we can see what appears to be another one directly beneath him. And in the other scene, we can see the third one just behind the corner. We can also see a gold mushroom down here too. But what is it for? Is it a special treasure? Then there's a wall here blocking access to a whole field of plants. How do you get inside? Perhaps one of the nearby plants has a pickaxe you can use to break through. Or maybe you have to drop in from the top. Also, did you notice Toad actually gets scared when the Shy Guy starts chasing him? That's a cute little touch. But oddly, we've actually seen Toad take on Shy Guys before without getting scared. So is it random? Or is it proximity based, similar to how the ghost scared Luigi in Luigi's Mansion? Okay, so far we've discussed 3 different levels. The opening one, Wingo's Castle, and now the one of the Toad Brigade. But there are a ton of other ones shown off in the trailer, so let's go ahead and break down all the ones we can find. But before we do, there are 3 levels shown off in the trailer that Nintendo's already fully played through on a recent Treehouse stream, being this tropical level, this lava one, as well as this hedge maze one. So since we've already seen these levels in full, there's no point in us breaking them down further. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the new juicy stuff. And up first, we have 3 different jungle-like scenes that at first glance appear to be from 2 or 3 different levels. And then there's this beach scene too. But what if I told you they're all part of the same level? You see, one of the scenes in the trailer zooms out to reveal 25 levels in total, and if we zoom in on this one to the bottom left, we can see the power star with a nearby piranha creeper from the first scene, the new spitting piranha sprout enemy from the second and third scenes, and to top it off, the beach from the fourth scene can be seen below. Now speaking of those piranha sprouts, they seem to be unique in that Toad can actually carry them around. In fact, based on the flower on their head, you can see you'll be able to pluck them from the ground just as if they were a turnip. So we're guessing they'll be involved in solving some of the game's puzzles along the way. Like for instance, maybe you can roll them down the ramps here to take out enemies, like the piranha creeper that guards the power star. And speaking of which, did you notice the dirt trail on the ground seems to show the path that the piranha creepers will follow? Which in this case means you'd better grab that power star quick, as he's going to wrap himself around it entirely. Finally, it looks like in order to fully explore this level, you'll have to check out some underwater caverns around the backside, complete with more piranha creepers. Next up, another scene shows off the level with a wooden platform while Toad is being chased by several blue Shy Guys, which at least confirms that multiple colors of Shy Guys will appear in this game as well, though like in other Mario games, they don't seem to behave any differently here. Unfortunately, besides the visible blue switch and ladder here, there's not much else we can tell you about this stage, except for the fact that it also appears in the 25 stage scene in the top right corner. And going off of that, we can see that there are actually at least 3 blue switches, which we're guessing will be used to raise and lower the block platforms, which would explain the odd gap beneath this one as it provides a hole for it to drop into. In addition, it looks like there are some spikes on the ceiling here, meaning you might have to be careful when raising the platforms. There's also a flying platform around back, which looks as if it may be how you reach the power star. And just like in Super Mario 3D World, you have to blow on the microphone to make it fly. And then there's this odd little desert corner here, complete with a cactus, and we can see there's a couple of gems nearby too. Next up, we have this clip showcasing a library level, as well as a new gameplay mechanic being the ability to rotate portions of the stage. To do so, you just need to stand on the floor switch here to make a gear appear, which you can then turn by rotating it on the gamepad's touchscreen. In this case, we can see rotating it reveals a second staircase that leads to the ladder, and then to the power star. But don't spin it too quickly, otherwise you might miss a gem that appears between the two sections. Following that, we have this scene showing off a night level filled with colorful platforms and at least a couple of bullet bill launchers. And thankfully, it too is shown in the grand 25 level scene. And it's here that we can see its true craziness, featuring multiple bullet bill launchers and piranha plants, with both of them even found on the walls too. So how on earth are you going to get to the power star here? Well, we know how. Remember that gear platform from the previous level? I really hope so, it was like 10 seconds ago. Well, you can see one of them here too, so it seems you'll have to use it to rotate the platforms in this stage as well. The next level shows off Toad using a pickaxe that he plucked from the ground in order to dig through the bricks underground. And we're guessing you'll be able to do the exact same thing with the bricks in the opposite wall too, as another plant can be found nearby, which we're guessing is a pickaxe. Now it's pretty clear that this level goes pretty deep, which a clip from the official Japanese website gives us a better look at, with Toad able to find additional pickaxes in the underground caverns. And speaking of which, did you notice how Toad didn't even need to uproot the plant that the pickaxe came from? Yep, it seems the pickaxe will automatically dig things up for you too, even including piranha sprout enemies, which are destroyed instantly. Oh, and when you add in the fact there's a whole other side to this level, yeah, there's a lot to explore. And speaking of the other side, we can just barely see part of it in this clip, which is clearly underwater. And you might just barely be able to see one of the gems there too. And if we go back to the website clip, we can see there's yet another tunnel underneath that section as well, though it appears you have to go the long way around to get to it. Either that, or by digging through the other block pile we mentioned before. And by the way, listen closely to the music that plays when Toad gets a pickaxe. Yep, that's an updated version of the music that plays when Mario gets a hammer in the original Donkey Kong. Pretty cool, huh? Following that, we get a look at a maze set in a palace, and it looks like you'll start off on this raised platform here since there appears to be no other way onto it. But more importantly, it's also our first look at another new mechanic, the double cherry from Super Mario 3D World, which creates a duplicate Toad that responds exactly as the first one does. And we can see here that you'll need to use both of them to depress a pair of P-switches at the same time, which will cause a wall to lower, allowing both of you to escape into the maze. Oh, and by the way, those P-switches are orange instead of the usual blue color as you'll see in the upcoming levels, which likely just indicates that they're part of a pair. Now because the game forces you to solve that simple P-switch puzzle before continuing on, we think this may mark the first appearance of the double cherry in the game, just so you get used to how it works, which also likely means this is one of the game's earlier levels. Now this is all we see of the level in the trailer, unless we take a look at that 25 level scene again. Now once you have the double cherry, you'll have to navigate both Toads through the maze and somehow make it to the power star around the backside here. But how? Well, for that, let's take a look at a couple of screenshots released from Nintendo of Europe, as we can see a platform directly beneath the power star with the number 2 on it. Now those also appeared in Super Mario 3D World, which means you'll have to get both Toads onto that platform in order for it to take you to the power star. But how do you get to that platform from the maze? Well, do you see the red carpet that leads to that platform from within the palace? Keep that in mind as we take a look at this next screenshot. Do you see it there? Yep, you can see even more red carpet at the bottom of the screenshot here, just below the platform that you started on with a double cherry. But how do you get to it? Well, do you see that second pair of P-switches in the maze? We're pretty sure that when you depress them with both Toads, the walls bordering that red carpet will lower, allowing you to drop right onto it. And we know this because those walls also lack the crenellations. You know, the bricks on top, that the rest of the walls have in this area, except for the one that also dropped at the very start. So yeah, that red carpet will eventually lead you to the platform that will take you to the power star. Now the maze isn't quite as simple as a maze seems, as a clip released on the official Japanese website also reveals that a new mole-like enemy can be found here. He'll sprout from the ground when you get close, and then seems to run away. But why is he running away? Do you need to catch him for some reason? After all, a screenshot from another level does show Toad seemingly plucking one from the ground. So maybe in order to catch him, you'll have to sneak up slowly behind him, before he takes off. Regardless, this all raises a question. What happens if you get hit by an enemy while using a double cherry? In Super Mario 3D World, your clone would simply disappear, and you can keep playing as long as there's one left. But in this case, that would seem to be impossible since there's no way to get back to the cherry, unless another one appears elsewhere in the level. Which could mean that if either of your Toads gets hit, they may actually take damage and shrink this time around instead of being taken out completely. But if it happens again, it could be game over. Finally, did you notice that the coins in the maze seem to appear and then disappear? That's kind of weird. Oh, okay, so I'm probably going to go crazy if I have to read the rest of the script by myself. So I'm going to hand it off to Derek for a little bit, but I'll see you guys again before the end.
Really, Andre? It can't be that bad. Let me show you how it's done. Next up, we have a level based around a giant tree, and here we can see Toadette activate a geyser via the nearby P-switch, which she can then ride to the top of that tree. By the way, did you notice the rainbow that appeared only when the geyser raised? That's a neat touch. Anyways, this is yet another stage that appears in the 25 level scene, so let's take a look at it here. And right away we can see the power star is actually inside the tree itself. and we can even see the 3 gems, being in an underground alcove, inside the highest hollowed out log, and then around the backside here. But how do you get to that power star? Well, we think you may want to drop off the backside of the highest log in order to reach another P-switch back here. But what does that P-switch do exactly? There's no other geysers around as far as we can tell. Maybe it spins the log around on top, allowing you to somehow drop from it onto this section here and reach the star. We can see the Ant Trooper enemies from Super Mario 3D World will appear in this stage, and if they work in the same way here, it's possible you may be able to catch a ride on their head in order to reach otherwise unreachable areas. The next level we see is a rather colorful one, filled with conch doors, also from Super Mario 3D World, with 4 here and 2 more in the back. And you'll have to move quick to avoid being hit, which could make grabbing the gem right in front of the third one a bit tricky. And speaking of tricky, we can see the power star is in the back there. But how the heck do you get to it? Well, we think we have some idea. Ultimately, it looks like you'll want to take the warp pipe here, then drop off the ledge to reach the ladder below. You'll then be able to reach this cylinder, which we're guessing will spin underneath your feet based on the coins all around it. In fact, we're pretty sure spinning it will cause it to travel along the track here, explaining the 2 conch doors in the back that you'll have to carefully dodge along the way. And then you'll somehow drop from the cylinder to the power star. We're not quite sure how. Maybe there's a hole in the cylinder you'll have to rotate into place, allowing you to drop inside and exit out the opening in the back. There's just one problem with all this. A conch door is blocking the way to the ladder, but that's where the other warp pipe comes in, which will seemingly allow you onto the wheel here, which has an opening on the left side. So you might have to spin it around, drop inside through the opening, then rotate it again to drop to the platform below. From there you can drop to a blue switch behind the conch door, which we think may cause that platform to rise, taking you to the plant here. And based on the blocks, we're guessing it'll contain a pickaxe, allowing you to bust through them, and then drop down and take out the conch door here too. So yeah, it looks like a pretty puzzling course. No wonder the ground is made up of puzzle pieces. Next up, we have a level full of towers, which appears to take place atop a tower itself, and it seems you'll be able to use the 3 P-switches here in order to raise and lower the towers in an effort to reach the power star in the back. Now connecting the towers are a pair of magic carpets, and we think they may move around to different locations, which may be how you'll get the coins and gem here. Either that, or maybe you can throw a turnip to snag them. Then there's the locked door down here, similar to the one we saw in the first trailer, but we still have no idea how you'll unlock it. After all, there's no key in sight. Another level is based all around the beat blocks from Super Mario 3D World, which means they'll disappear and reappear somewhere else every few seconds, which could make getting to the power star here a bit tricky. Adding to that is the fact that a fire brother can be found here too. We can also see 2 gems, one in the alcove here, and another floating in the space where a block will appear. We're guessing you'll have to throw a turnip at it to snag it. Okay, now we've already seen one full train level in the previous trailer, but we can now see the game will be getting another one. Although the train itself is clearly still the Star Express based on the logo on the side. Only this time the train is racing through some dark, creepy, almost underworld-like place, which might also explain the new creepy zombie-like enemies, which, based on this scene, appear as if they'll materialize from the ground at certain points. And they're not alone, as we can see flapdoors will also appear here, who will attempt to stomp anyone that gets close, as well as our first sighting of the Charging Chuck enemy. But check this out, the Charging Chuck actually takes out one of those zombie enemies while attempting to get at Toadette, so we think he may actually be essential to clearing out those enemies. After all, there are almost enough of them to form an opposing football team, so this could introduce an entirely new puzzle mechanic, with you leading the Charging Chucks around, and they might be the key to destroying the bricks found all over. And on top of that, the zombie enemy appears as if he may already be stunned at the very start of the clip. But how? Did Toadette throw something at him? Or maybe her headlamp will stun these creatures for a short time. Or perhaps she dropped on top of them from above. After all, there is a tunnel here that appears to lead to a ladder around the back, which she can use to reach the platform above, containing the first gem. Now, although the train itself is still the Star Express, the train cars themselves are actually entirely new, and there's a new mechanic where you can actually separate the train cars from each other using the switches, which means if you don't grab that gem there first, you might be out of luck. Now in both cases that we see this, the switch is at the back of the train car, and we can see a third switch near the front of one here. We think it's unlikely you'll be able to disconnect the same train car that you're on, so this must have some other role. But we're not entirely sure why you'd want to do this, unless it's one of the few ways to shake those Charging Chucks off your tail, as we can see here. Another new level called Shoot Scoot Slopes in the trailer uses the same track pieces as found in Super Mario 3D World's Mario Kart level, only this time they function as one-way slides. Oh, and this time the Mario Kart references have been dropped, as a clip from the official website confirms the classic music doesn't return. and that clip actually reveals a lot more about the level, and by that, I mean it basically reveals the entire level. So it appears that you'll start at the top of the level, which makes sense given that it's a level based around slides. And we can see that the gear platform we've mentioned before will play a critical role here, allowing you to rotate some of the slides into different positions, with Toadette rotating the slide in order to reach the blue platform below, but it appears that she could also rotate it to the left in order to reach the lower platform containing one of several charge and chucks in the level. And like with the train level, we think you may have to use them to bust through all of the bricks found throughout the level. At any rate, after Toadette takes the slide, there's another gear platform there which she'll have to rotate if she wants to grab the gem on the slide here without falling into the abyss. And we can see this from a different angle thanks to an image from Nintendo's UK Facebook page, which also reveals the location of a gem before too, just below the starting platform. Anyway, that slide will take her to an area containing a third gear platform where she can rotate a yellow slide to connect with the level's final slide, which leads to a gem, as well as the level's power star, which a charge and chuck is guarding. But also, did you notice the gold mushroom up on the right edge? How the heck do you get to that? Well, we have an idea. Earlier in the level, you can actually see the goal far below, so it seems like there's some spot in the level that you'll be able to drop right into it. Hell, perhaps you'll have to rotate one of the slides into just the right position, and that slide may be a green one that we haven't yet seen. Wait, how do we know there's a green one? Well, we can see the level is built around 4 colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. And since the first 3 already have slides that you can rotate, we think it's a safe bet green will too. Next up, we have this rather vibrant level based around a pinball machine in the sky, with Toadette taking the place of the pinball, referred to in the trailer as Razzle Dazzle Slider. Now, though we get a glimpse of the cannon that'll launch you to the top in the trailer, a zoomed out picture from Nintendo UK's Facebook page reveals that it's actually a cannon-topped clear pipe, and that there's actually one on either side. Now, after being launched to the top, it looks like you'll be able to walk around on the platform and choose where exactly to drop onto the pinball table and begin sliding down it. Now, this table seems to have a clear celestial theme, well, with it being based in the sky, the giant star at the top of the table, and the fact that star-shaped fireworks even go off in the background. And speaking of stars, where is the power star? Well, going off the zoomed out shot again, we can see it waiting in a gated off area at the very bottom. But how do you get to it? Well, we think the Goomba artwork on the side of the table offers a clue. See the 2 question blocks with one having been activated? Well, we think that correlates to the 5 black buttons at the base of the table. We think that sliding past one may light it up, and that activating all 5 will lower the gate guarding the power star. Now, since there's no wall to catch you by those buttons, this likely means you'll continue to slide right past them, meaning you won't be able to simply walk from one to the other. So unless you can trigger more than one at a time by sliding between them, you'll probably have to be making at least 5 trips down the table. And even that's not going to be easy, as there's a host of hazards along the way, including piranha plants, bumpers, and holes in the table from which ant troopers travel between. And we're guessing it's no big deal if you drop into either of those holes, as it appears they'll lead to these 3 exits near the cannons. In fact, you might actually have to drop inside in order to snag the 3rd gem, as only 2 of them can be found on the table itself. The one here seems impossible to slide into since it's blocked by a wall above. But check this out. You see the coin trail just behind it? Well, if we follow it, it leads right to this hole, and we can see what might just be the lip of a cannon, meaning landing in it will not only launch you through the coins, but to that gem too. So we wouldn't be surprised if the circular hole on the other side also has a cannon. As for that other gem, well, it, as well as the nearby coins, are all surrounded by a rotating gate, meaning you'll have to time your slide well to slip inside. Now, there's something interesting about the trio of piranha plants right here, and that's the fact that the right one is missing in this screenshot. In fact, based on the stars, it looks like Toadette just destroyed it by sliding right through it. So maybe piranha plants won't actually be that big of a hazard here, though perhaps you'll only be able to slide through them at certain times, such as when their mouth is closed. Okay, and that covers it for the pinball table, and actually every other level shown off in the trailer. Well, sort of. Because, as Andre mentioned before, there's this pesky scene which actually shows off 25 levels at once. Now, we've already talked about some of them as they're shown elsewhere in the trailer, and some others are actually from the first trailer. But as for the rest, well, I guess we better start going through them. But keep in mind, the clips of each level are really small, so the image quality is going to get a bit rough. And let's start in the top left corner, which showcases a dark level with more of those spiked wall enemies we saw in the tower level from the first trailer. And thankfully, a few of the release screenshots give us an even better look at it. And we can see you'll actually be able to use those spiked enemies as platforms in order to eventually reach the power star at the top of the level. In addition, we can see one of the gems here, as well as another locked door. And if we take a look at the very start of the clip, we can actually see where it leads, which is to a small cavern with a pair of spiked enemies that you'll eventually have to catch a ride on in order to reach a purple pipe on the other side. But we have no idea where it leads to since we can't find an exit for it anywhere. But we can see a second gem in a small nook below the power star as the camera rotates. Also, check this out. Remember the peepas who move in a circle? Well, you can actually see their silhouettes through the wall. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this recently released screenshot actually is from this same level. It's so zen. Moving on to the right of that stage, we can see a ruins-themed level, complete with walleye enemies, which you'll have to work past to reach the power star at the top. And thankfully, this is another stage that we get a better look at due to a recent screenshot. And here we can see this side of the level has 4 giant gears, with the outside pair apparently able to be controlled via the gear on the left, while we're guessing another on the opposite side will control the other 2. And if we go back to the clip, the other side of the level has a pair of gears and control gear all its own too. Now interestingly, we can't actually see any gems here at all, so either Toadette has already found them or they're really well hidden. After all, there is a purple pipe down here that clearly leads somewhere, and there is an odd gap directly below it, as well as an opening in the wall on the back side. Next up is a stage that takes place in the clouds and features the rolling hills from Super Mario 3D World. Well, sort of, because these ones are a bit different. In 3D World they were turned by themselves, but here it looks like they only spin when Toad runs on them, as the other 2 are stationary. Now on each of these wheels is a blue platform. The first 2 are pretty obvious, and you can barely see the third one here too. So it seems this level will revolve, quite literally, around rotating each segment to line up the 3 pieces, allowing you to cross over them from the blue pipe here to the power star. And speaking of blue things, we can just barely see the blue Toad from the Toad Brigade hanging out down here too, which confirms at least he will appear in more than one level. So does he just award another gem here as well? And where's the rest of the Toad Brigade anyway? Following that, we get a glimpse of another tropical-like level filled with piranha creepers, and we can see that you'll have to climb a series of ladders in order to reach the power star at the top, but it's blocked by a large brick. How do you get past that? Well, do you see that blue handle there? A recent screenshot shows what happens if you pull on it, which we're guessing Toad will pilot from the inside seeing as he's nowhere to be found. So it appears that you'll be able to use it to blow that brick apart, as we can see it being destroyed here. And we wouldn't be surprised if you're able to use it against a nearby piranha creeper and flapdoor enemies. It also appears as if the cannon will be able to shoot turnips in rapid fire, based on the fact that we can see 3 on screen currently. We also can't help but wonder if that's how you'll snag the gem in the high alcove here, as there seems to be no other way to reach it from what we can tell. Finally, if we go back to the clip again, we can see there's a hidden area that a purple pipe leads to, coming from beneath the stage, but we have no idea where the other end is. Next up is a rather interesting stage built almost entirely out of blocks, and it appears that the entire block structure will rotate 90 degrees automatically every few seconds, as we don't see Toadette interacting with anything to cause it. In fact, the only part of the stage that doesn't rotate is the platform where the power star can be found. Now, as far as we can tell, these blocks aren't interconnected at all, meaning the only way to get around is by dropping from one to the next, which will require careful use of the walkways that protrude from both the front and back sides of each of the colored blocks. And we're guessing that you'll have to do a fair amount of maneuvering if you want to snag all 3 gems. Now interestingly, all of the non-colored blocks appear to be solid, except for this one at the bottom here, which looks as if it contains a gold mushroom. Next up is a double-decker level, and we can see a floating platform below that connects them. And actually, we can see a second one on the opposite side of the stage at the very end of the clip. And once on that top floor, it looks like you'll want to drop through the hole in the floor in order to reach the power star. Enemy-wise, it looks like you have to watch out for the bitty buds on the top floor, as well as fuzzies on the lower one. Moving on is a lava-filled world, where you have to avoid charvogs that leap between pairs of gates in the floor. Beyond them, you'll also have to be careful when crossing the many spinning platforms in the level, especially if you want to nab the gem at the top here, which requires crossing a spinning log. And in case you're wondering how you get up there appears to be another one of those flying platforms around the back side. And we can see what appears to be a second gem just left of it, and the third one's around the front. And of course, it's pretty hard to miss the power star. Next up is a rather unique looking stage, consisting of several differently colored sections. Now there really isn't a lot that we can see, besides the fact that it looks like a fair amount of it might take place inside the interior, with various windows providing a peek inside. And once again, the power star can be found at the top. But look, how the heck do you reach it? Is there a platform you can raise to fill the gap? Or is there some way to get enough speed off the ramp to cross it instead? Following that, we have a rather tall level built out of wood, and of course the power star is found near the top. and it seems easy enough to reach with the stairs leading right to it. But oddly, there's also a number 2 platform you can ride up to it too. But wait, that number 2 platform means there must be a double cherry around here too. And sure enough, we can see one right next to the tree here. But that's not all, as there's another double cherry on an even lower level, which means you could have a potential 3 toads. But wait, check this out. There's actually a number 4 platform down here, which means there has to be a third double cherry lurking somewhere we can't see. Now from what we can tell, the only place that number 4 platform could drop you off is right here. Again, right next to the Power Star. But with so many ways to reach it, there must be something we're missing. After all, the entire level appears to be connected via the staircases. So what are the numbered platforms and double cherries for exactly? Maybe they're needed to get the gems instead. After all, there is an odd slope platform above the star here. Perhaps that number 4 platform will actually take you all the way up to it, where perhaps a gem can be found? Oh, and by the way, there appears to be yet another number 2 platform right here, next to the tree stump. But where does that one go? It doesn't look like there's anywhere for it to go overhead, so maybe it'll drop below? It's clear there's a few odd things going on in this level. The next level in that massive grid appears to be another ruins type, and it's filled with piranha sprouts as well as a bunch of P-switches. I'm not kidding, I counted 11 of them, and we're pretty sure those switches will raise and lower the columns all over the level, particularly as we can even see gaps beneath some of them that they would slide into. And we can even see here how that might open additional passages. On top of that, literally, we can see some of the piranha sprouts will be affected too. And speaking of those piranha sprouts, we wonder if you may have to toss one of them at the gem floating here in order to grab it. At least the second one here seems to be a bit simpler. Next up is a level based almost entirely around clear pipes. I mean, just look at that maze. Now your ultimate goal is, of course, the Power Star on the opposite side, and it appears there are at least 2 ways to get there, but along the way you'll also be able to collect coins, the 3 gems here, here, and here, as well as a gold mushroom up here. But you'll also have to watch out for 3 sets of fuzzies that make their way through the pipes too. However, it appears you'll actually be able to fight back against them this time thanks to the pickaxe you can pick up over here. The next level shows a tower that you'll start on the top level of, with the Power Star on the floor directly below, which looks like you'll have to come at from underneath via the ladder here. Now that tower is surrounded by hedges, in which you'll be able to find at least 2 gems and some piranha sprouts, as well as at least 4 P-switches, which will raise and lower 2 sets of gates, as shown in this clip from the official Japanese website. On top of that, we can see they will also raise and lower a gate blocking the entrance to the tower. Tricky. And holy crap, we're still not done? Man, Andre, I gotta tag you back in for the rest of this.
Aw man, do I have to? There's so many words left. And I was going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. Alright, here we go. So moving on, we get a look at a level that takes place in the night sky, with a Power Star, surprise surprise, being found on top of it all. Now there are some blocks that you should be able to move around using the gamepad, but some of them have bullet bill launchers resting on top of them, which means you'll have to watch out for bullet bills at different heights as you go through the level. And speaking of bullet bills, check this out. There appears to be bullet bills firing from this block. What's going on there? There doesn't seem to be a launcher there. It almost looks as if they're emerging from a portal on that block. So maybe these blocks could act as warp points or bullet bills too? Finally, we can see the ground is covered in a blue lava material that will almost certainly kill you if you touch it, as in Super Mario 3D World. Next up, we have this rather crazy looking stage made up of various pieces that slide back and forth. But even cooler is the explanation given for it, because at the end of the clip, we can see a giant key in the backside turning, as if the whole stage were a wind-up toy. Now the Power Star appears to be nowhere in sight, so could it be hidden somewhere inside? But we can see at least 1 gem located on the side of the level. The next stage is made up of a blue and orange platform that's patrolled by 4 groups of Parrot Bitty Buds. 2 of them are just before the Power Star, a trio guarding the gem here, and the final one is circling a second gem. As for the third gem, well, you can find it on the ledge here. But how do you get to them? We're not entirely sure, but if you look at the blue platform, you can see what appears to be at least 2 partial openings, suggesting the platforms will move in some way, making them accessible. But even then, how will you get past the Bitty Buds? We're guessing there might be a pickaxe around here somewhere. Oh my god, we finally made it to the final level on the 25 grid screen from hell. Oh! So this final one appears to be themed to the Japanese temple levels from Super Mario 3D World. And like in those stages, you'll have to watch out for spiked traps, as well as spike enemies who throw spiked balls. Yeah, there are a lot of spikes going on here. We can also see some green arrow platforms here, which if they function like in Super Mario 3D World, means you'll be able to move them in one of 2 directions by stepping on either side of the platform. Oh my, are we done? Are we finally finished with the analysis? Wait, no, you mean there's even more levels revealed on Nintendo of Europe's Facebook page? Ah! Alright, let's take a look at those levels. So first up, we have a couple of pics of a level that looks similar to the haunted house we've seen before, but this level actually appears to be entirely new, as the platform here and the staircase in this screenshot aren't in the other level. And we can see that the zombie-like enemies will play a major role here as well. But beyond this, a third screenshot reveals what appears to be the top part of that same level, based on the similar sky and the same brick building. And in case there are any doubt, you see all the purple blocks here? Well, you can just barely see one of them at the top of this screenshot too. So based on this screenshot, it looks like you'll be able to take a blue pipe from below to reach this area above. But then what? I mean, there is a gem floating out in the open here, but how do you get to it? It is pretty clear you'll be able to traverse this area in some way based on all the floating arrow signs. So could there be an invisible path here perhaps? Or maybe that elevator looking thing in the back functions like a Wonkavator, allowing me to hover side to side. We're really just spitballing, but it does look like that lift is resting on some kind of platform or switch, one that looks very similar to the one Toadette is standing on here. Is that how you summon or perhaps control it? And speaking of haunted houses, another picture appears to show off what appears to be yet another haunted house level. And we know it's a different one because we can just barely see a window high up on the wall, and the sky visible through it doesn't match either of the other two levels. Now just left of that window we can see what appears to be an empty picture frame. Could that be where the booze came from? And of course we can see yet again that they're vulnerable to the light from your headlamp. Finally, there's this screenshot that shows a shy guy in what appears to be some kind of dark temple. And as far as we can tell, it too doesn't seem to match up with any other existing level. But there's not much else to go off of besides the fact that lighting appears to be extremely limited in this level, with only the occasional torch and your headlamp providing illumination. Phew, and that finally covers it for all the new levels, I think. But there is one picture that provides a little bit more insight into a stage we already know about. So based on the full moon, gray sky, and hexagon-shaped platform, we can tell this is actually the top of the tower that we saw back in the first trailer. So it looks like you'll be able to use a turnip cannon there in order to fight off the level's magic Koopas. And maybe that's related to how you unlock the door below, by defeating all the enemies. Oh, and then there is this short scene from the trailer, which based on the moon, could be part of that same level too. Although we're not quite sure how. It's possible it could be yet another new level that we don't know much else about. Okay, so far we've broken down 35 levels in total in this video alone, if you don't count the one that might be a level that we literally just mentioned. And if we add that to the 3 from the recent Treehouse stream, as well as the 11 we found in a previous analysis from the E3 trailer, that means we now know about 49 levels in total. Or maybe 50 again if you count that one level I just mentioned. And since Nintendo's trailer itself confirms there are more than 70 stages in the game, that means there are at least 22 stages we don't know anything about yet. And probably more. Now in our previous analysis, we had noted that, at least in the E3 demo, you selected the level by flipping through pages in the book. And at the time, it pointed out that there were 20 pages in that book, meaning it represented 20 levels. Now obviously, 20 pages isn't enough to contain more than 70 levels, but could this mean they'll be spread among different books of 20 pages each? If so, that could mean there will be 4 books in total. And speaking of the books, we had previously noted that the 3 gems you'd find in each level would be displayed here, but we weren't sure what that giant blank spot could be for. But now we can't help but wonder if that's where the gold mushroom that we pointed out in a few stages might go. It's the only thing that would seem to fit so far, although it would mean that there would have to be one hidden in every stage, which doesn't seem to be the case, unless they are really that well hidden. Now something else we pointed out before was that each level had a name in the E3 demo, such as Mystery Mansion Doorway Drama here. But in the latest trailer, a different title appeared for that stage, now seemingly called Bizarre Doors of Boo Mansion. Similarly, Star Express Sneak Attack is renamed to Blizzard on the Star Express. And Magma Mountain Time to Climb is now the King of Pyro Puff Peak. Yeah, it's nothing earth-shattering, but it seems all the titles at E3 may have just been placeholders. And while we're on the topic of things that have changed, okay, so in addition to new levels, the trailer also showcased several levels that were previously shown off at E3, like the ones I just mentioned. But some of them look a bit different this time around. Take this level for instance, which appears to be Walleye Temple Steal the Star, at least as it was known at E3. But there's one key difference this time. It now takes place in the evening instead of midday as it was at E3. Besides that, the level appears to be identical. Then we have this level, which was shown in the E3 trailer too. Except then, the red and gold pipes are both green. Oh, and the background is different then too, being blue instead of green. And they've also now added 2 additional plants here, as well as some bricks and a gold mushroom. And those gameplay changes continue with the Blizzard on the Star Express level, which now has flap doors on board instead of the cat Goombas seen during E3. Finally, let's take a look at Mushy Monument Mayday, which again it was known as at E3. Now this level was pretty unique in our previous analysis, because we pointed out then that there appeared to be 2 versions of it, one that had just 1 Shy Guy, and another with 4. And this time we can see a 3rd variation of 2 Shy Guys as well as 2 flap doors. So what's going on here? It's possible that all the levels have just been updated since E3, and we're now looking at their final versions. But of course, our original idea, there being multiple versions of each stage, is still possible too, especially if you're able to, say, revisit levels as the other Toad. Okay, we're nearly done here, but there's still just a couple things I wanted to point out. For one, in this scene from Bizarre Doors of Boo Mansion, we can see a poster on the wall. And if we zoom in, we can see it looks like a wanted sign for Wingo. So it seems that Captain Toad's not the only one who's had his treasure stolen. And speaking of Wingo, we can see he's been added to the game's logo, along with Toadette and a few other tweaks, like a power star replacing a gem that used to be there, and Toad now looking back at the dragon chasing him. And while we're on the topic of the dragon, since we now know he's no longer the main antagonist, we can't help but revisit our idea that he may actually help you at some point after you defeat him, as suggested in the original trailer with Captain Toad catching a ride on him. And the latest trailer provides an additional glimpse of that scene with question blocks appearing in it. And on top of that, a recent screenshot shows off even more, including enemies like Hammer Brothers and Bullet Bills, as well as coins, which basically confirms that this is in fact a level and not just a cutscene. But how does it play? Do you control the dragon directly, or maybe indirectly? So could the two of them actually be working together toward a common goal, by taking down Wingo? It would make sense given the dragon has wings, which we haven't seen him use otherwise. What if you have to fly with him up to wherever Wingo's hiding? And as you may have noticed, it's actually Toadette riding him instead of Captain Toad this time. What if it's her turn to go rescue him? And obviously, with all that lava, we wouldn't be surprised to find out this level comes near the end of the game. Finally, in our previous analysis, we point out a bunch of similarities to Super Mario Bros. 2, and those references continue in this level, which has onion domes reminiscent of an Arabian palace, which is similar to Wirt's palace from Super Mario Bros. 2. So could he be the true villain here? Well, probably not, but hey, we had to end on a high note. And with that, we're finally done covering everything we could dig up on Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. But as usual, let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments below. But please don't, I really don't want to make a second one of these. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more on Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and other things gaming too.